To many of you watching, the digital nomad lifestyle appears like a dream. The location freedom, being able to work from anywhere and travel the world, these are of course some of the benefits of being a digital nomad. But I've also met plenty of people that, given the opportunity to live this way, would still opt for a settled life, a quote-unquote normal life, with a good job, a house, and a family. The question then becomes, which lifestyle is best for you? Hi, I'm Chris from christhefreelancer.com, and in this video I want to share with you a little experiment in lifestyle design. For 3 years I lived as a digital nomad. I spent the majority of that time living outside my own country of Australia and with no fixed address. But after those 3 years of living out of a suitcase and bouncing between countries, I made the decision to spend a whole 12 months at home with zero travel. Many of you thought that was it. I would stay at home and live like a normal person for the rest of my life, but here I am. I'm back in Chiang Mai and I have no intentions to head home anytime soon. And this is not to say that either lifestyle is better than the other, but instead that each has its own pros and cons. And in this video, I'm gonna break down my time at home and contrast it with my time as a digital nomad. What did I learn from 1 year pursuing a quote-unquote normal lifestyle? And what insights can we learn about designing your own ideal lifestyle? So I'm sure a lot of you were quite surprised by the fact that I chose to go home and live a normal lifestyle after being a nomad for 3 years. But the reason why I made that decision was for a few reasons actually. The first one was career. My career as a web developer, I felt was slipping by me traveling so much. I was especially focused on making these YouTube videos in 2017, and you would have seen me go around the world on this YouTube channel during that year, and that wasn't good for focus on work. I'm still a relatively new developer. I've only been doing this for 5 years, so at this stage in my career, I probably should have been a little bit more serious about it and spending less time bouncing about making YouTube videos. Obviously, the YouTube videos are great as well. You guys watch them and enjoy them, but I had to take a step back and make sure that my career was sorted. And so that's one of the big reasons I decided to come home. The second reason was dating. So I didn't really publicly announce this on the YouTube channel or anything because it wasn't really relevant at the time. But now that I bring it up, it is kind of relevant that Denise and I, when we were in Bali in 2018, we decided that when we came home to Australia, that we would just be friends. And I know that's just a token statement that a lot of people make, but we've managed to maintain our friendship since splitting up about 1.5 years ago. It's been great to have our relationship still, but still be free to go into the world, date other people, and she is happily with a new boyfriend now. That meant for me though that I had to find a new partner. And because I am looking for a traditional relationship with a girl of my own culture, I thought that going home would probably be a good idea for that. We'll get into what I found with that in a little bit. The third reason was just to feel settled. I'd been a digital nomad, I've been living out of a suitcase. I felt like a little bit, I didn't really feel great about myself being homeless for 3 years. And I thought, you know what, I'm single now, I've got to get on top of my career. There's a few things I want to get on top of in my life, like another one was fitness. And I thought, you know what, being settled, being in the one place, this might actually work for me. Let's give it a go. And actually the only reason why I was able to actually do this year at home was because I had opened my mind up to going back. This is something I'll talk about later in the video, but I was so sold on this digital nomad thing that I guess I was resistant to going backwards, and it almost felt like a failure. But as you'll find, it's just another step in the journey of life, as cliche as that sounds. So those were my intentions of going home, but what was actually the result? What actually did improve by me being at home? Number one, which was my main concern, was career, and that did improve by me going home. Obviously, without the distraction of travel and even making videos, I just basically worked a lot. I actually took a job with a Shopify Plus partner agency because I've always wanted to get into this area of web development, and it was a great learning experience. I found myself working day in, day out, doing web development, which is something that I hadn't done the last 3 years, and learning this new platform and kind of starting to geek out again over web development and software development. I'm not really that big of a computer geek, but I sometimes get excited by computers, and it's amazing what you can do with programming. So I started to gain more of an interest in my career by going back into it and doing it full time. And this was another thing that was hard for me to do identity-wise because I am Chris the freelancer. How could I go and get a full-time job? But at that time of my life, I decided to stay at home, and I was like, you know what? There's this opportunity to work with this agency. It's going to help build my career. Why not? So I took the job, went through the whole recruitment process, did well at that, and I worked at this job for 10 months. Now, on the other side of working at this job, I'm a specialist now in Shopify for the time being, and now I'm starting to work with other Shopify agencies to deliver Shopify specialized web development services to these companies. So it's put me in a lot more of a stronger position career-wise moving forward, and this is going to help me to live location independently. The second area was health and fitness. So being at home, being back in Australia especially, I was able to get into a really solid routine with my training. So a few of you guys have noticed, Chris, you know, there's a visible difference. And for me, it was very gradual. So I didn't really notice it until I made a Nomad Fit video and I saw what I looked like in, I think it was 2017. And I was like 7 kilos lighter. I was like, whoa, is that how my body used to look? It was a gradual process, but I'm more stronger now. And I'm a lot more serious about my fitness than I was 3 years ago living this digital nomad lifestyle. So that's been one area that has improved by being at home, and it's not an area that I have to let slide while traveling as well. I'm here in Chiang Mai. I've been training pretty consistently at CrossFit Chiang Mai, and by consistently I mean every day pretty much since I've been here. So I don't plan on letting myself slide in that department. Also, health-wise, I started to eat healthier. Even coming back to Chiang Mai now, I've realized I'm making healthier food choices. It was really good for me to kind of center myself and take my health seriously, and of course, my physical fitness and my training. So those were basically the two biggest positives that came from spending a year at home. But there were some downsides to doing this as well. Obviously, the biggest downside was no travel, no videos, and that just meant that my life was kind of boring. I would say to people, there's not much to do here. I'm just going to work and work out. Even on the weekends, because I was working full time, I would go and set up at a cafe and work on my own projects. So my life was just continuously working out, and it's good to do that for a period of your life, but I really missed making these YouTube videos. I really missed the experience of travel. And now being back in Chiang Mai, I'm inspired again, I didn't even know if I would feel like making this video until I came back, and I'm here, I'm meeting old friends, I'm bumping into some of you guys on the street, and my inspiration is coming back. So that has been a really good thing about being back, but also a downside to kind of living in the real world where none of this stuff that I find interesting exists. And kind of following on from that, one of the biggest issues that I experienced while being on this settled year was it was hard to relate to a lot of people. A lot of people where I come from, yeah, they've traveled, but it's been on vacations. They haven't had a lot of international experience. And when I told people, I was working remotely and traveling for 3 years, I lived in Thailand, lived here, lived there, they'd just be like, oh. And they wouldn't understand it, but then they wouldn't be curious enough to ask questions either. And so I felt like those 3 years that I had experienced that were really pivotal in my life, and I'd done a lot of stuff, just didn't exist. It was just wiped clean from my story because nobody was asking about it, nobody was interested in it, and people just assumed that, oh, you know, Chris, he grew up here, he was born here, he's just always been here, you know? Like, there was no concept of this digital nomad lifestyle. And on the flip side, me trying to, you know, interact with normal people, I guess I'm a little bit weird, and that's part of the reason why I like being a digital nomad, because I'm into doing different stuff. And a lot of people were just doing the normal life thing, which, you know, as I said, has its benefits, but it was not something I get excited about. Some of the people that I met over the year, when they heard I was going to go live back in Thailand and work remotely, they were like, why would you do that? You know, like, there was this attitude of like, I don't know, man, like people just didn't get it, right? But, you know, there I was living a normal life and seeing if I could get into it. So I guess the conclusion after all that was, all right, well, I've done this year in Brisbane, back home, in the city I've lived. I haven't been on a plane in a year. Am I going to do this another year? Or am I going to go back to how I was living before? And I thought to myself, I can't see myself doing this for another year. And at that point, I knew that even though I wasn't completely sold on, you know, being a strict digital nomad, that it was a better idea for me to come back here, hang out with my friends, get reacquainted with this lifestyle, and, you know, take it from there. All right, so what can we learn from this whole experience of being at home for a year? Well, number one, there can be some distinct benefits from being at home. You know, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing, as I've just discussed, but there were some benefits to me, and there might be some benefits to you, right? Number two, I think that there's definitely a certain type of person who gravitates towards a digital nomad lifestyle. Just like there's a bunch of people that wouldn't even consider doing it or look at me in weird ways when I say working remotely in Thailand. So I think it says a bit about you as a person that you want to be a digital nomad. And that's what I mean when I've said in the past that it's not for everyone, not because people can't learn the skills to be a digital nomad or that the opportunity is not there for everyone, but certain people just won't enjoy it. Certain people like being at home. They like the settled feeling. They like feeling grounded. They like being close to family. You know, there's a lot of reasons to be at home. But for me, there's a lot of reasons to travel and live abroad as well. So I think it's a certain type of person, and either lifestyle is not bad. It just depends on what you like to do and the type of person you are. The third point, and the main point I want to bring home in this video, is that at the end of the day, it's not really about being a digital nomad or being, you know, a classic normal person. It's about designing a lifestyle that works for you. And that might involve a little bit of travel. It might involve no travel. It might involve living as an expat here in Thailand. You know, there's so many ways you can do it. And I think that thinking of yourself as a digital nomad and kind of following that religiously is going to limit you in terms of thinking about, well, do I want to go home and live a normal life at this stage in my life? Do I want to stay in the one place and be an expat? You know, for me especially, having a brand around being a digital nomad and kind of branding myself as that has made me feel limited in the sense that I have to keep up this brand of being a digital nomad. Well, at a certain point, it wasn't working for me anymore, and I wanted to go back and live a year at home. And that was like really outside of the realm of what I was thinking at the time. So, you know, now I've just got a really open mind to everything. You know, I could see myself settling down, but like in a different country. I don't know if I would go back to Brisbane and give it another go. Maybe in a few years, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe go to another Australian city and live there. I'm really approaching life with an open mind now, and I think that's something that I would recommend for everyone watching as well, is to just think about your ideal life. And it doesn't have to be a digital nomad, it doesn't have to be a normal person. It can be whatever you want it to be. You just gotta gather the resources and
get those means to be able to do it.
All right, guys, the device I was using to record the audio, which was basically my phone, just died. So I'm gonna finish the video on the feet. Basically, guys, I did the year at home. It was good for, a year, but definitely couldn't see myself doing it another year. So I'm back. I'm living in Thailand at the moment for this month. And I guess the key takeaway that I wanted to make for this video is that just stay open-minded, Go home for a year if you want to. Don't feel like it's a failure. And if you want to be a digital nomad, give it a go, I think as we go through life, whether we're living nomadically or living at home or being an expat, we're constantly learning, and it's helping us to get closer to what it is we really want. And the other thing is that maybe sometimes in your life you want to be a nomad, other times you want to be a settled person. Really, at the end of the day, if you have the freedom, the means to be able to travel and work remotely, have the means to live at home and be successful at that, why not? But yeah, guys, that's it. That's the conclusion. Yeah, keep an open mind, keep going towards what you want out of life, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, peace.